I stood outside the door, my hand hovering over the newly changed deadbolt, my heart hammered, but I kept my face carefully blank. The late afternoon sun slanted through the peephole, casting dusty, fragmented streaks of light on the wooden floor. Everything was outwardly calm, yet inside me, a storm was brewing. I sighed, trying to steady myself, but the hand holding the new key still trembled. Every distant footstep echoing down the hallway sent a sharp, cold jolt through my chest. I kept asking myself, did she know? Did she realize the secret was out? For 4 years, I'd given my trust, my love, and now, all that remained was suspicion and this suffocating silence. I drew a deep, shaky breath, turned the lock, pushed the door open, and the sight inside froze the air in my lungs. The living room was exactly as we'd left it, but on the sofa, 2 suitcases were open, half-packed, as if someone was waiting for a hasty return. On the coffee table, her phone and wallet were tossed haphazardly, rushed, careless abandonment. I stepped inside, forcing myself to look up, to absorb every single detail. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. My mind spun, reeling from 1,000 unanswered questions. I replayed the last few weeks in my head, every fleeting glance, every hurried conversation, the cryptic texts, the hushed phone calls, the way her smile always seemed to dissolve when I asked what was wrong. My rock-solid trust shattered instantly. I reached for my phone, ready to call her, but stopped. A part of me was terrified that the answer would be even worse than this deafening silence. I walked to the window, staring out at the empty yard. Not a soul around, just the quiet, detached sound of leaves falling onto the concrete. I wanted to scream, to smash something, to just let go, but a voice deep inside held fast. Hold it together, take it slow. I sank onto an armchair, allowing myself to feel the ragged rhythm of my heartbeat, the shallow gasps for air, desperately searching for a clue, a sign. Anything that could explain this sudden, terrifying void. My eyes scanned the room, noticing every small object, the messy stacks, the seemingly innocent details that were now screaming undeniable evidence. There was the coffee mug, a smear of lipstick still clinging to the rim, the restaurant receipt left on the counter listing dishes I'd never seen her order. My stomach tightened, recognizing that everything was pointing towards a truth I'd spent months subconsciously ignoring. And then, in the heavy silence, I saw the thing that turned my blood to ice, a photograph on the side table. My gaze locked onto it, and my heart seemed to stutter, then stop altogether. That image, the familiar, dazzling smile in the frame, contrasted so violently with the scene before me that the whole room seemed to tilt. The wave of betrayal, humiliation, and white-hot anger hit me all at once, sweeping me into a vortex from which I knew, with absolute certainty, my life would never return. I collapsed onto the sofa, leaning back, my hands shaking as I tried to control the seismic tremor of emotion. Each breath was an exhausting effort, like I'd just finished a silent, brutal battle. My mind raced, grabbing at the smallest fragments of memory, the most innocuous remarks. Why didn't I see it sooner? How did I miss all the warning signs? And she, how long had she been hiding this, keeping me so perfectly oblivious until this gut-punch moment? The storm inside wasn't letting up. I knew from this second forward, everything was changed. I had to face the facts, no matter how excruciating the pain. And in that dense, suffocating silence, I understood one thing clearly. My life, my love, and my belief in everything we had. It was all on trial, pushed to the breaking point. I stood up, pacing the perimeter of the room, my eyes dissecting every last item. Everything now told a story I didn't want to hear. The receipts, the missing messages, the calls she'd avoided. A frantic part of me wanted to bolt, to erase the memory. But logic commanded, confront it. I picked up the restaurant bill, reading it again and again, and every number, every location, every subtle detail amplified the betrayal until it was an unbearable weight. I walked back to the window, looking out at the normal, quiet street. Everything was ordinary in the world outside, but the world inside me had just imploded. My pulse still hammered, my breathing ragged, my gaze fixed on the wreckage of our home. I knew one thing for certain, nothing would ever be the same, and from this moment, I had to find a way to face the truth, even if it broke me completely. I stood there, the crumpled receipt still clutched in my fist, staring at numbers that my rational mind struggled to process. Each line item was like a blade, twisting deep into the trust I had placed in her. The same question hammered in my skull. Why? Why me? Why all this? The answer remained silent, and that silence made the weight of everything crush me even harder. A primal part of me wanted to scream, to shatter the quiet tension of the room, but my body locked up, I could feel my pulse racing, my palms sweating, and a cold hollow ache spreading across my chest. I told myself to calm down, but the harder I tried to control it, the more violently the rage boiled up. I walked slowly, deliberately, towards the coffee table, my eyes glued to the cell phone lying there. The urge to open it, to read the messages, to check the call history, was an almost physical pull. But simultaneously an inexplicable dread held me back. A part of me knew the truth could be more devastating than anything I'd already imagined. I took a deep breath, my fingers shaking as I pressed the power button. The screen lit up, and the hidden messages, the missed calls, the unread notifications, it all unfolded like the opening credits of a horror movie. I saw an unfamiliar man's name appearing repeatedly in our shared conversations, alongside the subtle, evasive language she had used to cover her tracks. My throat tightened, choked by a surge of both fury and crushing humiliation. I sank onto the floor, burying my head in my hands, trying to stifle the pain. Every shared moment flashed through my mind. The cozy dinners, the late nights filled with laughter, the promises we made. They were all just fragile screens now, masking a brutal reality I had been too blind to see. A sudden sound, the brief chime of the doorbell, made me jump. I stood up, listening intently, but nothing followed. Just the quiet rustle of the curtains and a light breeze. I went to the door, peered through the peephole, but the street was empty, unnervingly still. A frantic impulse urged me to run outside and search, but my rational mind cut through the noise. Don't let emotion drive this. Confront the evidence, piece by piece. I returned to the room, and my gaze settled on the open suitcase. The items she had left behind, seemingly innocent moments ago, were now damning evidence. I opened each compartment, checking through the contents, and with every item, my heart clenched tighter. Every piece of clothing, every document, every forgotten photo told a story I refused to believe. She hadn't just planned to leave, she had been lying, deceiving, and walking away without a single word of warning. I took a long, ragged breath, trying to cage the emotional explosion. But then, as I sifted through the mess in the side pocket of the suitcase, I found a small clue, a fragment of a receipt, a tiny handwritten note, and the outline of a plan I was completely excluded from. The anger flared into a towering inferno mixed with a deep, paralyzing despair. I wanted to yell, to smash everything, but I didn't. I knew that rushing now would mean losing the only control I had left. My reason. I sat down on the floor, my back against the wall, and started recording everything in my mind. Every minute detail, from the smallest warning sign to every text snippet, every receipt, every evasive gesture. I documented it all, as if I had to prove to myself that I wasn't making it up. But everything I felt was justified in the heavy silence. I could hear the rapid thump-thump of my heart and my shallow, quick breaths. I whispered the question to the empty air. Could I ever forgive this? Or was this it? The door slammed shut, my heart shattered, and had permanently erased from my life. And in that moment of absolute clarity, I knew one thing. From this second, I was not the man I was before. A part of me had fundamentally changed, tested, betrayed, and forced to face the most brutal truth imaginable. My life would never return to its quiet equilibrium, and every action from here on out would decide whether I rose from this or completely collapsed. The doorbell chimed again, this time yanking me out of my frozen state. I stood up, taking slow, deliberate steps, my feet feeling heavy as lead on the cold hardwood floor. Every small sound from the hallway made me flinch. My heart felt like it was trying to punch its way out of my chest. One part of me desperately hoped no one was there, but another part was terrified of what was coming next. I swung the door open, and nothing, just a small, slightly crooked package leaning against the frame, waiting for me. My hand trembled as I picked it up, feeling its rough edges. Inside was a single piece of paper, the slanted, familiar handwriting belonging to her. My stomach dropped as I read the first few lines, every word. Every comma a harsh emphasis on the betrayal and deceit. You'll never know the whole story, and you shouldn't. A fierce wave of pure, concentrated rage washed over me, mixing with the pain and despair. I flung the note onto the floor, stumbling backward a few steps until my back hit the closed door. Sweat beaded on my forehead. My heart hammered. It felt like the internal storm was finally breaking through. How could it end like this? How could she be so cold, leaving everything behind like it was some kind of sick game? I took a sharp, painful gulp of air, trying to throttle the anger, but as my eyes swept the room, they landed on the phone again, the silent vault where the entire truth lay waiting to be unlocked. I grabbed it, opened the messaging app, and the stream of conversations played out like a live-action horror reel. But the final, staggering blow wasn't just the texts. It was the last photo she had sent to the other man, a picture of her radiant, smiling a smile I'd always believed was reserved only for me. My blood ran cold. The sheer weight of the betrayal drowned out all reason. Every happy memory instantly evaporated. I felt myself plunging into a bottomless pit, where every breath was a heavy, useless effort. I was paralyzed, caught between a storm of rage, humiliation, and utter hopelessness. I got up, walked to the table, and picked up the photograph, scrutinizing every detail. My mind was now etching everything into memory: the deceit, the chilling indifference, the elaborate lies she had woven for 4 long years. And then, a profound, agonizing sigh escaped my lips. I knew this was the deciding moment. I had to face her. I had to demand answers, even though I knew the response might completely shred what was left of my heart. I told myself, no turning back now. You have to face the music. I picked up the phone and dialed her number. The ringing echoed in the silent room, each ring a painful countdown. And then her voice came through the line, annoyingly calm, casual, a direct punch to my gut. Hey, you called. Took you long enough? I was speechless, utterly unable to figure out where to start. All I wanted to do was scream, throw the phone, unleash every suspicion I'd bottled up. But the words caught in my throat, and I realized this wasn't a normal conversation anymore. This was the moment everything would change forever. I took one final, deep breath, and the words came out slowly, shaky but firm. We need to talk. Right now. The line went silent for a beat, and I knew that on the other end, she was bracing herself for an answer, an explanation, or a flat-out denial. My heart was pounding, my breathing shallow, and I understood. The person I was talking to, and the relationship we had, was gone. Her voice came through the phone line, soft yet infused with infuriating confidence. What exactly do you want to talk about? Or do you just want to hear the truth spelled out and hurt a little more? I stood frozen, every muscle in my body seized up. Each of her words felt like a knife digging deeper, the tone both casual and mocking, igniting the fierce rage within me. I swallowed the lump in my throat, inhaled deeply, and struggled to keep my voice even. Everything. The whole damn thing. Why, for 4 years, I believed in you. I loved you. And how could you do this? She let out a small, detached laugher sound that was both familiar and utterly foreign. You thought all of this belonged only to you. You thought you understood me. Did you honestly think I couldn't have a separate life without you? The fury boiled over. Every sweet memory we shared shattered instantly, like sharp shards of glass piercing my heart. I paced the room, my hands shaking, picking up photos and small trinkets, holding them up as proof to myself that she had truly betrayed me. She cheated on me, and now she's this calm about it. I thought bitterly. My voice was trembling, but I forced strength into it. Why me? Why didn't you just say something in the beginning? Why let me find out like this? She paused, and then replied, her tone cool and entirely unapologetic. I wanted to be free. I wanted to choose the life I wanted, and you weren't part of that plan. I froze, my heart pounding violently. A part of me wanted to scream, to throw everything around, but my rationality kept screaming, hold on, don't lose control. I sank onto a chair, my hand shaking as I rested it on the table, staring intensely at the phone. For years, was it all just a joke? She laughed again. This time the sound was bone-chillingly cold. You lied to yourself for that long. That's what's truly hilarious. The rage instantly dissolved into pure raw despair. I felt the floor shifting beneath me, my entire world collapsing. Every image of happiness, every promise, every intimate moment instantly morphed into a searing nightmare. My chest felt squeezed, and I knew, from this second on, everything had irrevocably changed. I stood up, walked to the window, and stared out at the empty yard. No one there, no sign, just the engulfing silence. I knew she wasn't coming back, and maybe she never would. I don't know if I can forgive this, or if all I can do is walk away, I muttered to myself, feeling the desperate pulse, the mixing of anger and despair still churning inside. I turned back, my eyes sweeping the room that was now the silent witness to the truth, the receipts, the messages, the discarded items, all telling a story I didn't want to hear, but had to. I knew that to survive this hurricane, I had to confront it all, every detail, every feeling, every memory. And in that moment, I realized one thing clearly: there was no going back. From this instant, I had to choose between the pain and acceptance, between the blinding fury and the cold clarity, to find a way to stand up amidst the wreckage she had left behind. I sank down in the middle of the living room, my hands clutching the phone, staring at the screen as if every text, Every scrolling line could suddenly spring forth the truth I wasn't brave enough to face. The searing anger was still there, an agonizing ache in my chest, but my logic was finally kicking in, reminding me that if I acted impulsively, everything would descend into chaos, and I would lose the only control I had left, the ability to confront and process the facts. I started to meticulously sort through everything: receipts, texts, emails, call logs. Every small detail became a puzzle piece I needed to assemble to understand the picture she had hidden for so long. I took pictures, saved screenshots, and organized them chronologically, like a detective tracking the truth in the dark. Every action was fraught with tension. My pulse was frantic, sweat slicked my forehead. The mix of rage, humiliation, and despair was almost enough to make me lose my footing in my own home. I rose, taking slow, deliberate steps around the room. My hand brushed against the items she'd left, the jacket that still faintly smelled of her perfume, the shoes kicked carelessly in a corner, the photo of her laughing with someone else. Each object was a sharp reminder that I no longer controlled the past, that everything I had believed in was just a thin veneer over a lie. A raw, animalistic part of me wanted to lash out, to scream, to smash it all, but reason anchored me. Stop, focus, control is everything now. I opened cabinets, searching through every document, bill, and piece of evidence she'd neglected to take. Every slip of paper, every invoice confirmed the betrayal I hadn't wanted to believe. I sat down on the floor, leaning against the wall, logging every detail in my head, every text, every call, every fleeting, evasive gesture I'd previously dismissed. I wrote it down, organized it, analyzed it, as if I had to prove to myself that this wasn't paranoia. This was solid fact, a monumental betrayal I couldn't deny. My heart was still racing, my breath coming in short bursts. I knew this was not the time for weakness. Part of me screamed to rush out, find her, and confront her immediately. But logic warned that a hasty move would cost me all control. I needed a plan, a precise course of action. Every step from here had to be carefully weighed. I picked up the phone, my hand steadying as I typed a short, decisive message. We are meeting today. I need to hear the explanation directly. A short time later, her reply came unnervingly casual. Fine, you want to meet. We'll meet. A complex mix of tension and twisted relief washed over me. My heart still hammered, but at least, I knew the moment of direct confrontation was imminent. This would be the time when all the truth would be laid bare, where every pent-up emotion would explode, and where I would have to decide my own fate, forgiveness or a complete, absolute ending. Before leaving the house, I took one last look around. Everything now felt like a crime scene, the items, the evidence, every detail reminding me that I had no way to rewind the clock. I picked up the suitcase she'd left, zipped it shut carefully, feeling like I was finally gathering the last shreds of control into my own hands. Stepping out the door, I took a deep, stabilizing breath. The world outside was quiet, but inside me, the hurricane hadn't subsided. With every step on the pavement, I felt my heartbeat, my breath, and my resolve. This would be the final showdown. Everything was about to be exposed. The drama was peaking, and from this moment on, I had to choose whether to rise or crumble amidst the wreckage she had left behind. I stood outside the upscale coffee shop where she had agreed to meet. My heart hammered against my ribs, each shallow breath making my head spin. The surrounding scene was aggressively normal, the clinking of ceramic mugs, the rich, comforting aroma of espresso, but inside me, the entire world felt like it was holding its breath. She walked out, wearing a simple sundress, her hair falling softly over her shoulders, her smile just as bright as if absolutely nothing had happened. Her eyes fixed on mine, composed, but that composure was a gut punch that twisted my insides. I wanted to scream, to rush her, but my feet were rooted to the spot, my body frozen by shock. You made it. Her voice was light, but every word sounded chillingly clear and detached. I drew a long, ragged breath, fighting to choke down the anger and the pain. We need to talk. Right now. No games, no lies. She chuckled, but it wasn't the sweet sound I remembered. It was a challenging, cynical smirk. You want to hear the truth? Or do you want to lie to yourself one last time? My heart stuttered. A desperate voice inside urged me to leave, to run from this moment. But my resolve forced me forward. Don't miss this final chance to face her. I inhaled deeply and stepped directly in front of her. All of it. Why? For 4 years, I trusted you. I loved you. And how could you be like this? My voice was ragged, choked with a mix of fury and despair. She stood perfectly still, her eyes holding mine, every word slow, deliberate, and ice cold. Because you weren't part of my plan. You thought you understood me. You thought you were my whole world. You were wrong. You were just a part of the temporary game I chose to play. The sheer fury exploded inside me. I wanted to yell, to tear the air around us, to force an ounce of remorse from her. Every cherished memory instantly transformed into jagged shards of glass in my heart. You deceived me. For years of total lies. I choked, my hands clenching into trembling fists. She simply smiled. A cold, indifferent gesture. You were so good at deceiving yourself for so long. It's pathetic, really. But it's clear now. You have to choose. Forgive me, or end it. I stood motionless, staring straight into her eyes, and the seconds stretched into an eternity. My heart was pounding, my breathing shallow, and all the repressed emotions finally burst free. Outrage, humiliation, agony, despair. I realized this single moment would define everything. My trust, my love, and the person I would become. I took a deep, steadying breath, the words escaping my throat, shaky but absolute. I can't do this anymore. There is no coming back. Everything ends here. She flinched for a split second, as if she hadn't expected such finality from me. The challenging smile vanished, replaced by a heavy silence. I turned and walked away, each step slow, deliberate, and final. Every footfall was the beat of my own heart reviving, a resolute decision to stand up from the rubble she created. From this moment, I knew with certainty my life would never be the same. But at least I had reclaimed control. I had dared to face the truth, no matter how excruciating the pain. I walked away from the coffee shop, each step heavy, weighted down by the 4 years of deceit and betrayal I was leaving behind. My heart was still pounding, my breath catching in my throat, yet a strange, fragile light was beginning to bloom inside me. The storm was starting to settle. An undeniable ache remained, but a sense of freedom was slowly spreading. Quiet but powerful, out on the street, everything was aggressively normal. The sounds of traffic, muffled conversations, the comforting scent of coffee and pastry in the air. But for me, the outside world felt entirely alien. Everything I had known, trusted, and loved was now just the emotional wreckage she left behind. I inhaled deeply, feeling every rapid heartbeat, and told myself, I'm still standing here. I'm still whole. Back at the house, I walked into the silent living room. The late afternoon sun streamed through the window, casting fragmented, dusty light on the floor. All the objects were exactly where I'd left them. The suitcase, the papers, the receipts, the phone, a silent battlefield where the truth had been revealed. But now, they were merely evidence, no longer wielding the power to crush my spirit. I walked around, touching each object, each photo, each small detail, truly feeling the reality that I had faced it all and survived. I sat back down on the sofa, my hands trembling but gradually steadying. I replayed everything, the deceptive texts, the bills, the fake smiles, the chilling detachment she had hidden for so long. Every memory was a painful jab, but they no longer controlled me. Instead, I felt a new strength within me, the resilience of a person who had stood up, faced the truth, and dared to let go of what was toxic. I took a final, deep breath, closing my eyes, allowing myself to just feel my heart and my breath. A soft breeze drifted in from the window, chasing away some of the suffocating air, gently erasing the shadows she'd cast. I cracked a smile, a slightly melancholic one, but it was the smile of a man who had weathered the test, confronted the brutal truth, and was ready to move on. I stood up, surveying the room one last time. The evidence, the mementos, they were just relics now. They held no more power over my soul. I opened the front door, stepped outside, and took a huge, cleansing breath of fresh air. Every sound around me now felt vibrant and alive. The rustle of leaves, the distant chirp of birds, the hum of passing cars. I felt life. I felt freedom, and for the first time in 4 years, I felt truly, unapologetically intact. I knew my heart still hurt. The memories were still raw, but I was strong enough to keep going. I realized that what happened hadn't destroyed me. It had taught me self-respect, the ability to stand tall, and the necessity of taking control of my own narrative. Every step from here would be the stride of a wiser, stronger man who finally knew his worth. I stood on the porch, the afternoon sun shining directly on my face, feeling every ray touch my soul. I smiled, a genuine smile, no tears, no lingering anger, just calm resolve. Life was continuing, and this time, I was walking into it with steady feet, a free heart, and a spirit that no one could break. And from that moment, I knew for sure, though the past was painful and the memories were clear, I had risen. I had confronted the truth. I had shed the dead weight of pain, and now, I was the one in control of my own destiny. My life wasn't over. It was just beginning again. and this time, I was walking forward with freedom, strength, and integrity.